I cannot even contain myself. I am so excited. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. So, today is the new moon, dark moon, Mother Moon Day, February. So, I did it. I gathered all my calendars and research that I could find, because I know I have more years, because last year was my first year starting the 2 different types of moon calendar. Okay, so because it is a new moon, it is a good day to explain how I came up with the calculations, and then share with you what I have discovered, which is basically the 13 months, the 13-month calendar. So, if you've looked at some of my older videos, but if you haven't, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Amy Mon, and I talk about the moon and goddesses, mostly goddesses, and it all relates to the moon. So, in my, I guess you could say, esoteric research, 9 kept showing up. Mother kept showing me 9. And at first, I calculated it to just kind of recognizing in numerology. And I have a whole theory around numerology, and I theorized that 9 is the key number of manifestation, or the key symbol of manifestation. And then also, because when you spell out the word feminine, it's feminine. It literally has the word 9 in it. So from there, I kept listening, is the best way to describe it. And someone had suggested, or it came around, I feel like someone suggested the 9-day calendar, doing a 9-day calendar week. And as you know, I've done a little research as to where that might have came from, and there are Roman calendars that have a 9-day week. But most of what we're taught today is handed down through patriarchal interpretations, specifically, pale patriarchal males telling us our history and telling us so many things, including a calendar to go by. And as I've spoken before, there are over 400 calendars in use to this day. 400? It's just mind-boggling. Okay. And some of them being more precise than others. Well, then we have certain writings that talk about the moon. And then, as you know, when I go into especially the myths and secrets, everything goes back to the moon. The calendar, the name calendar, goes back to the mother, goes back to menses, and how months were decided. And so this is what I came up with. I realized, and then I was watching somebody on here and just doing more about like getting to know yourself better and learning about my own astrology. And that's when I noticed there are 9 planets. And I was like, okay, stop it. What? In astrology, we follow the 9 planets, including Earth. Earth is included in that, right? And I feel like that is typically the rising sign, because it's supposed to be the sign you would be if you were born on the other part of the other quote-unquote side of the earth, or other hemisphere, or other land where the sun might be rising. If you were born over there, is that where the sun was rising, is kind of my theory, and is also kind of what is said about the rising sign or ascendant sign. I find that to be the closest to the earth sign that we're given, and then we're given the sun sign, and then we're given our moon sign. And I actually think our moon sign is more important. But, oopsies, how are we deciding this? Well, Okay, and then the writing's about how we're going to stray away from the truth of the calendar or time. I have a theory also that we are in a time grid, meaning like Metatron's cube. I know that this might ruffle some feathers. It's a cube. We are not supposed to be in a cube. We're supposed to be in a circle. We're supposed to be embracing the spiral, the 9. A cube is very square and it has corners, and there's it. Even the mental idea of a cube is a pattern formation that keeps you in a box. It is literally the box. So I theorize also that that's where we get like think outside of the box, think outside of time, think outside of what we're taught, including like the ethers, right? We all know that ethers exist, but where is it? Anyways, that's a whole nother rabbit path. Okay. Rabbit path, rabbit hole. So, the moon. The moon. So what I did, there are 2 things I mentioned in my last video. I talked about trying to figure out the 13 months. So I have my calendar from 2023. Wait. Yeah, 2023. Okay. And you'll see, because in the beginning of the year, so there are 9 planets, feminine, everything goes back to the mother. So what I had, and according to the stories we were told, the months started with the new moon, or the dark moon, or mother's moon, and I went from there. I was like, okay, if this is how it really was, let's focus on that and bring in the 9-day weeks. So it basically ends up with 3 9-day weeks based around the planets. I feel like with all the studies, I want to bring in the moon. So I feel like the Earth and the moon might be the same, but it's all around the moon. This is all calculated around the moon. So I think it's okay that I keep the first day Earth Day, because I do think that that's what we did. That's my theory. That's what Mother's showing me. Anyhow, so I started. Okay. So I started from the 2023 from the lunar new moon. So of course I ended it with Pluto. So the other thing is, okay, so we have a lot of people telling us that it was 28 days. I don't think so. I really don't think so, because if numbers were so important and symbols were so important and 3, 6, and 9 were so important, I don't think that there were 28 days. 8, 9, 10. No. It was 27. And then there were either days out of time or somehow we knew, because always after the 3 9 weeks, the 27 days have concluded, there are always a few days, at least 2 days, that I call it days out of time, because then the new moon, quote unquote, starts. So I also theorize, like, we might have done rituals, or we might have done gathering, or this is when sea stars and priestesses and sibyls would go into caves or darkness, or maybe some sea stars were on their moons, because I know that not everybody moons on the new moon, on the full moon. So my theory is that there was something that we knew to do on those days. Also, okay, so that's how I began this. I began this by starting with my phone, my other phone that has an app on it that I can't find updated and new. And it's just the moon, and it shows you its phases. And so I go by that, and I look up the phases, and I look up the new moon, and I look up when it says it's the new moon. Because sometimes the new moon, as well as the full moon, looks full and or is dark for more than just one day or one moment, even though everything is always moving, and we know that it's not in a complete new moon for a total of 3 days or 2 days or maybe even longer, which we're going to talk about, to the human eye. But I also know that we knew how to see beyond. Like, I know that we were able to like pull the stars down to us and move them and show this to people. And it might have been through medicine or meditation, but we had magic like that. Okay. Anyhow, with that, I started the first day on the first day of the new moon, according to that app. So I am using a little technology. I will admit that. If I only go by the new moon on the calendar, it's not always correct. As a matter of fact, on one of these, on the app, it says it's not the new moon, and on the calendar, it says it is the new moon. But according to the app, the moon is already waxing. Is that right? Yeah. Waxing. Okay, so I started with the new moon in February 2023. Okay. I'll kind of zoom in. And let's see, where is the new moon? Here is the new moon. This is the first day of the new moon. And you see up there I have Earth. I also have Earth down here. Because we're just going to start with this part. Because I have theories. Okay, so I start with Earth. And then I've figured it out. So it's EMVM. So Earth, Mercury, Venus, Mars, J, Jupiter, S for Saturn, U for Uranus, NP, Neptune, and Pluto. So those are the 9 planets, okay? So they bring the 9 planets, and then I start it over again. After when we get to Pluto, let's see, Earth, and then you see over here is Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And then I start over. Earth, you see how it says 1? Earth, Mercury, okay? And then I kept going all the way through to, so here's what I did. Once I got to the 3 weeks of the 3, wait, did I mess up on this one? No, month 2, okay. Month 1. All right. Oh, wait a second. No. There you go. Okay. Month 1. All right, so I didn't start it in February. So, okay, when did I start it? Interesting. I feel like Anyhow, okay. So I started this one. I did not start this. I'm less excited now. Month 1. What am I doing here? Yeah, okay. I'm just going to share with you what I did figure out. Okay, I got very excited about it. And then I did it again. And so I started with the first new moon of 2023. And the first new moon was January 20th. Okay? So I started with that first new moon in January. And that was January 20th. So then on the 28th, that would have been a full 9-day week. So that's what I did. I do 1, and then I did the next one, 2, see, is this Pluto? And then 3. So that would have been the first month, okay? From the 20th on. Now, I was thinking I had started it. No, it's still fine. I feel like I need to start this video all over again now. Because I thought I had started this on the wait a second. On the Lunar New Year. And I thought, I'm pretty sure that this had it on here. What is happening? Let's see. Thanks for bearing with me. Okay, no, I think I did it correctly because for some reason... There it is. I apologize. Oh my goodness sakeys. Okay, I did. Thank you, goddess. Thank you, goddess. Thank you, goddess. All right, so January 2023. All right. January 2023. Okay, good goddess. I did do it right. I was like, oh no, this is all okay. So yes, I went back onto that app and I found that the first day of the new moon started on the 20th. So I started the 9-day calendar on that day, the 20th, though the Lunar New Year was January 22nd of last year. So it almost matches. I'm 2 days before it. And we get into that in the next part of this, okay? But I started on the 20th, so I did the first week, and then I did the second week, and then the third week. So that's month 1, right? Starting with the Lunar New Year, right around that, the new moon on the Lunar New Year, and then starting the months, okay? So we have month 1 would end on February 17th. Okay, then we have, or actually would end, the 3 weeks ending with Pluto would end on the 15th, okay? And then we have 2 days out of time, and then the first day of the new moon. And that first day of the new moon was the 18th, and then the 19th and the 20th, all days of the new moon. So I start with Earth on the 18th, okay? And then I follow for 3 weeks because it's 3 9-day weeks. 3, 9, right? The numbers are important. The symbols are important. The numerology is a big deal because it's a big deal. Okay. So I did this throughout the entire year. So I'm just going to skip to the parts where I figure out the months. So month 2 it would have been March 19th. Now, you start kind of seeing, all right? Then month 4 would have been April 18th. I'm sorry. Month 3. Goodness sakes. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Month 1, February 17th. Month 2, March 19th. Month 3, ends. These are the ends of the month. April 18th. So what I'm doing here too is like I put, or April 15th. So the last day would be Pluto. And then you have the 3 days, 2 to 3 days out of time. And then the month starts over. And I came up with that because I feel like that's what we would have done. We didn't have like this kind of a calendar. We might have had something similar to this, but not in the Gregorian way. Okay. Then month 4 would be, so the end of month 3 is April. The end of month 4 is May 15th. And then the first day of the next month begins May 18th. You have 2 days on time. Then month 5 would be June 13th, Pluto. Then you have 3 days out of time, the beginning of the new month starting on June 17th. Then we move into July, month 6 ending on the 13th of July, and the new month starting on the 16th, the first day of the new moon. And we move into the 7th month would be August 10th. Okay. The 8th month would be September 9th. Okay, isn't that interesting? This is all 2023. Okay. The 10th month would be October 9th also. And then we had 3 days out of time. Then the Then the 10th month being November 8th. Then the 9th month, I apologize, the 11th month being December 7th. Then we move into 2024. And the 12th month would be the end of the 12th month. Going by the moon, and the 9-day calendar would end January 6th. And then the 13th month would end February 4th. And then there would be 3 days out of time. The first day of the new moon would have been February 8th. And on this calendar, the new lunar year actually would be the first day after the new moon. Okay? So this is what I started figuring out last year. Right? Because that's 2024. That's 13 whole months with 3 9-day calendars, 9-day week. 3 9-day weeks with 2 to 3 days out of time from the last day of the 9-day week with Pluto, and then starting on the first day of the new moon. So when I was doing this research, this is why, so I'm moving in. So the next part of this is today, I started realizing maybe this is how the Mayan calendar was going, especially when there's more information, especially even with my research into the goddesses of North America. Now we're going to be moving into the goddesses of South America, recognizing where the language comes from, which is predominantly South America, and the Mayans and the Olmecs, and seeing how I think there was probably like many of me, right? Watching the moon, watching the stars, doing this type of calculations, because this is what we did. This is what the Sibyls and priestesses did. This is how we were able to notice things and talk about things, okay? And somebody else was paying attention to us starting the month or beginning the month, so to speak, or our menses a few days after the new moon, the day after the new moon ended. Because that's what I realized. I was like, wait a second. This is last year, February, okay? Lunar new moon. If you want to go back, I did a whole video on it. But if you want to bear with me on this one, I will tell you again. So here's Pluto, the last day of Pluto, the last day. And this is where I started doing both. This is why I started doing both, because this is what I noticed. So, okay, 2 days out, and then here's the new moon, first day of the new moon. Here's the first day of the new moon. Oh, it's the first day after the new moon, and it's Lunar New Year. And then I started paying attention to that, as you can see. And I start down here. I start Earth Day, the first day after the new moon. Okay? And what I started noticing there, especially when we got to Christmas time. So, for example, okay, when I start the 9-day calendar, the first day after the new moon, so Lunar New Year, let's find another one. First day of Ramadan. Same with this year. Tomorrow is the first day of Ramadan. The new moon ends today. Is that right? I think I might be speaking too soon. Hold on. No, it's still a new moon tomorrow. But by the calendar that they give us, it shows that today is the new moon. On the calendar, right? So here we are. Here's today. Here is today, right here. And then tomorrow I'm writing this in that it's a new moon, but it doesn't show this on here. So, but, okay. I'm going to go back. I'm just going to keep going because there's a point here. I'm pretty convinced this is multidimensional. This is why we paid attention to the moon, because you would note it. There must have been something we noticed. And then also, well, I'll get into that in a second, because speaking of Ramadan and other holidays, but I'm going to continue. So I think I did last year. I did a video about, let's see what else. So I know there's some other important days that came right after the new moon. Let's do, I'm in August. Okay, new moon. No. But I did notice when I was going over the calendar for last year in July, we had an ending and a start of a new month. And always July is kind of a big deal, especially within the indigenous cultures, July and August. And I theorize it has something to do with the moon. They always do. It always does. Okay, for example, Labor Day. That's in the Americas, but that's during the new moon. That's not right after. It is actually during the new moon. Okay. The first day of Rosh Hashanah started during and after one of the new moons, where I started Earth. But Rosh Hashanah and Ramadan Both begin at sundown. We're going to get to that in a second. And I think it ties in because then it's sundown, right? And then also we'll get into the full moon. All right, but mostly I noticed it in December because we are also told that Christmas is supposed to represent Saturnalia. And what I found with the planets is that Saturn landed on the day before and was also the last day of the 11th month, according to my calculations. And then the first day of the new moon, the first day of the day out of time would have been the first day of Hanukkah. Okay. Which also starts at sundown. So we're talking about Islam and Judaism start their days at sundown. Okay, so that's when I started recognizing that both, when I start the first day on the first day of the new moon, the first day of the 3-week, 9-day month, on the first day of the new moon, it still calculates well and goes with certain holidays and goes with certain planets that we will say is represented by the moon or the sun at the time. Like, we only know what stars are in the sun sign at nighttime. We can't see the stars when the sun is out. We only know because of nighttime. So that's a hint. Okay. The other thing is, I did a video about time and the meridian, which is named Meridiana, Diana, meridian, and that time was noon, when the sun was at the middle of the day, when you could not see your shadow. So I find that interesting, right? Because everything's around the moon is, shadow and darkness. So when we calculate time and days, so it would make sense because breakfast would actually be lunch. Today's lunch. You would have gotten up in the morning and you probably wouldn't have eaten right away. You would have waited because, yes, you would still sleep at night, but the day started at noon. So you would have gotten up, maybe had some coffee, and then breaking fast would have been at noon when the day started. Then, as the day went through, it would kind of make sense that you would start something that night. Because the day, say sundown, would be what we consider noon. I know this sounds confusing. Welcome to my brain. Then midnight would have been half the day. And it would have been midday, not midnight. It would have been midday. Then the rest of the, what we can now call morning, would have been night. And then the night would have led into the day beginning at noon again. So when we talk about time, we talk about specific names, and we talk about the new moon and how things are figured out. You can see how these days, either being the first day after the new moon or the last day of the new moon, all goes back to the mother. All goes back to the mother. All goes back to the moon. So our Sabbath day and all of that, it's by the moon. And then, so I continued. So there were 13 months. Then I continued. And I started with the first month of February 24th, the first new moon of the lunar calendar, and brought it all the way back to this year's lunar calendar, new year lunar calendar day, which was actually January 20 something. We just had it, right? So the lunar new moon, as they told us, started. Where's that? Is this the right one? A year? Yeah. Started. Where is it? What? Oh, sorry, January 29th. Okay? And so, according to my calculations from the Lunar New Year of 2024 to this year's Lunar New Year, it was only 12 months. So you know how I said the Chinese say that sometimes there's only 12 months? Well, actually, this one would have been like 12 months and a few days. But then I was wondering, is that correct? Because if I kept going, if I added the 13th month, then that would have been February 21st. It would have just ended. So this new year this new moon that we're having right now would be the Lunar New Year. However, I did start plotting out the next year to see if I can figure out if we're going to have 13 months by my calculations, which would be starting at now, the new year, the Lunar New Year for 13, to make sure that there's 13, or to start it from what it says here and January 29th to next year and see if that equals 13. It probably would. But what I did notice throughout all of this, two things. One is, it always seems to land around February, either way. And then that would make sense that March would be the first full month of the new year, meaning like springtime or new time. Then the other thing is, okay. Then I started noticing, just when I was counting the 2 weeks, I noticed that almost every 18 days after the new moon is the full moon. Isn't that interesting? I didn't really pay any attention to that before. I mean, I always thought it was about 2 weeks. But on almost every one, it would be Pluto and it would be the full moon. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Because you would only have that if you're doing it with 9, not with the 7. Okay? And so I'm going to, we'll see. But I was so excited that it equaled 13 and that these dates and days were matching to certain holidays, quote unquote, holy days that we have on the Gregorian calendar. And then so that's what I was kind of saying about the Mayan calendar. So if you have, you'd have me and you have just me and I'm doing the 9-day new moon, first day of the new moon. Then you have Gina over here, and she's doing new moon, first day, we can see it. The first day of the month, 9 days, starts when we can first start seeing the moon again. The light comes back. Then we have Lisa, and she's studying the sun and the seasons. Because then I was like, okay, where did February get its name? So I did a little research. As I do. And February got its name. It means purification. It's a Latin word. It comes from februum, which means purification, and refers to the ancient Roman festival called Februa, a purification ritual held during this month, signifying a time of cleansing and renewal. Wouldn't that match to the ending of the 13-month calendar? Wouldn't that also match to somewhere a goddess being the teacher, forebearer, mother influence of this purification ritual and celebration? Also, Februa sounds like a lady name, a goddess name. The Roman origin is Februaris, which is the name of February. And we know where they got the name calendar. It comes from the mothers, and it comes from her womb and her menses. Okay. Then we have Februa. The festival involved rituals of cleansing and purification, which is why the month was named after it. And then the meaning of Februum is the Latin word, directly translates to purification. So I almost feel like then the Gregorian calendar came in and just like purified the idea of any knowledge of the truth of where they got the names and what these kind of rituals are. So then I started thinking about, because also when I was adding up the months, did you notice how September, October, November kind of were those numbers of months, like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12? And so I was like, Ember, is that like Ember, like the months you need to be warm because it's winter time? So then I looked up, how did September get their names? And I was not wrong. The term Ember months refers to September, October, November, and December, and it is believed to originate from the English word ember, meaning a small piece of burning coal and a dying fire, meaning like you would need fire during those months because it's colder. Also, ember months as they mark the fading period towards the end of the year, which is 13 months. So we've been told like the missing month is Ophiuchus or Ophiuchus. I've heard it pronounced both ways. And that's sometime in October. Well, when I'm doing my calculations, there's not a missing month. It's February. February would be the missing month. February or January. It's not January. It's the 13th month. And if January, so this brings me back to Janus, because Janus is known for time. Are they literally telling us like we're going to name this month after time because we're changing it? We're making it patriarchal. We're removing the mother. We're still going to practice worshiping her and honoring her in secret. But we're not going to let all you guys know. And we're going to change it around so that her magic is benefiting us. And we get to keep her knowledge and her magic. But I feel like you can't hide the moon and you can't hide what you have shown us. So you would have 3 levels, going back to like the calendar idea. You would have 3 levels of time watchers, time measurers. There would be the mothers watching the moon, and there would be the mothers watching the sun and the seasons. And we would put it all together. And this is probably because the Mayan calendar honors every day, and they do have one day out of time. Oh, and that was the other thing. When it came to, is it this year? Yeah. When it came to this year and the time between the day out of time and the Lunar New Year was 4 days. So you know how we have leap year? Is that where it came from? Because every once in a while you'd have 4 days instead of 2 to 3 days in between the moons. Because who came up with that? And who told us who came up with So, I found it, y'all. Yes, the 13. You can find the 13 months within the 13, within the 3 9-week calendar months. Okay. And it matches with certain holidays. So I feel like I don't know. I feel like I uncovered something. I'm so excited about it. I hope it translates that same way. Because of my own second guessing, me looking at sharing it, I feel like I kind of dimmed my own excitement when I was like, wait, maybe I did this wrong. But I did not. I did it correctly. And I've been doing this for years. You know, each month or months ahead of time, figuring this out. And then, yeah, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back, because I think up until, all the way through the end of the month of last year, I had both dates. So as you can tell on this one, I haven't started that yet, but what I did is I started drawing a line, and I even made a key. Okay. Day of the new moon. See? Day of the new moon. So that's just depicting what week it is. This is the day of the new moon week, and this is the day after. See how it says DA? The new moon week. And I'm going to go through the year and figure it out, because I'm sure what I'm going to find out is some mixy-matchy. Some mixy-matchy. Or some matchy-matchy. Either way, okay, because right now we're in a new moon, in a dark moon, in Mother's moon, cave moon, you know, and it could be the real Lunar New Year if we do the 13 months, or we're a month in. Either way, Ramadan and these Hanukkah and the other one, which I think is Jewish, all start around the moon. And that's the other thing. So all this information going out right now about all these different things. But I'm going to bring into what they all have in common. So the Islamic flag and Islam and the Moors, what do they have in common? A star. What do the Hebrews have in common, or Jews have in common? A star. Okay. You can start looking at a lot, or the moon, especially in Islam. You see the moon and the star. These go back to the Great Mother. You can only be Jewish through your mother, unless there's a conversion, and it's literally immersion. It's not just you get to become. It's like there's a whole process. There's a whole process to becoming Jewish if you are female and you are not Jewish born. I do think there's a whole process for the male as well if he wants to marry in. However, the mother is still Jewish, even if she marries somebody who isn't Jewish. You see what I'm saying? So where does that come from? So all of these groups and all of these males talking about how everything comes from them, it does not. And you are not even that said tribal group unless your mother is. So I see this constant skipping over the mother because if it wasn't for her, those rules wouldn't even exist. Muhammad got his teachings from his wife, who was older than him. Yeshua got his teachings from his mother. And his lady learned also from his mother. They all learned from the mothers. And then we go into Buddha. I think I just read a quote about it. He talked about his mother. Like, none of these males that we've been taught about got their information without a mother giving it to somebody first. And then those stars represented goddesses. So I've seen a lot of things. And if you take those stars, because you take the Star of David, it's actually the Star of Diana or the Star of the Great Mother, and you turn it into something. I heard this from someone else as well. And if I remember, I'll put their, was it on Instagram? It might have been here. But you take that symbol and you make it multidimensional, and you see all different shapes and forms. It's kind of like the flower of life. But also, all of these stars have points at the end. Mother mostly used flowers. And also, I saw a whole bunch of word connections. Flower, flower. Anyhow, when you take, and then also, so the Star of David looks like two pyramids overlapping each other, up and down. But if you break it apart, it becomes multidimensional. And I think what I heard is it represents our DNA. I don't know that part for sure. Then you take the Islamic star, which is all interlaced, and you would do the same thing with that. It probably would look just like our DNA, but it's similar to the Celtic knot, right, where they're interwoven. Then we have the where was I going with that? Oh, leading back to the flowers. So you take these symbols and they're meant to be multidimensional. And I feel like that's the same with what I'm talking about with the moon. And even astrology, I theorize that the reason why we get part of it, but we're not getting all of it, is because it's if you were to take our sky and stretch it out, that's what we used to do. Like, we would watch, and then we'd be like, okay, this is how we're going to do that. This is how we alchemize this information for ourselves, so that we can put it into sounds and symbols and reteach it. So that's what I imagine. I hope I articulated this video well. Gosh darn it, because I'm so excited. I think I did all right. So before we go, with that, such excitement about the 13 months, I want to do a little read share out of this New Moon Magic book. So according to astrology, let me grab I got a little condensation going on here because of my coffee. At the calendar here, today, 27th, new Mercury and I think maybe Uranus, Mercury. Well, we're being told we're in Pisces. So I guess my next step is to learn the stars. Oh my gosh. I told you guys when I first started looking into, I told you last year, I was like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? Because it is, and who is the 13th? Is it the dragon? It's got to be the dragon. Well, the dragon is on the Chinese calendar. I think it's a mother. Maybe it's just a mother. A woman. Not the virgin, not the Virgo. Maybe. Anyone have some theories? We say Ophiuchus. or a fucus. Is that a snake? The snake is also in the Chinese calendar. You know, I might want to look into the Ayurvedic calendar. I think it's also 12. Where am I recreating the 13 sign? I don't, you know what I mean. Like, I'm not recreating it, but where is it? What is it? What would its symbol be? I know in our calendar we don't have the dragon, but the Chinese calendar does. But same deal. Why don't they have a 13th? Even they have they know it's 13 years. They literally, that's part of their calendar. So there must be, I gotta do some research. What is it? Let's try to find it right now, maybe real quickly. But anyways, new moon in Pisces. The circle's new moon and Pisces has been and will always be two-headed. A collaboration between mystical and physical bodies. All right. And the moon, Luna, refreshes before the muses and dives into the domains of all we can and cannot see. Yeah, Pisces. All new moons make a space. Without the brightness of the sun reflecting on the moon and casting big shadows, we can more clearly see depths. So I want to just share some of I haven't read this. So let's just intuit a little bit, maybe. Wow, this is not short. All right, so here's what I'm gonna throw out there. Okay, here we go. They have an incantation, and I could share the incantation. But this is what kind of came to me. So, dark moon in the watery sign of Pisces. I look at it like the dark moon in the waters, or mother actually being with herself in the waters, and how deep, very into the body that can be, even like listening to your own biological sounds. You know how when you plug your ears, you can kind of like hear your heartbeat, you can hear yourself swallow, you hear your eyes move sometimes. And I'm seeing silver. Creativity. And this emergence of the truth. Pisces is supposed to be like the truster of the universe. All right. So whatever moon magic you can bring in. Also, the day hasn't even begun. The day hasn't technically begun. That would be something to really wrap my brain around. Like start my day at noon, which would be in 2 hours. Really, is it already 10? Yeah, oh my gosh. How did that... Oh, because this video is an hour long. I was like, how did that happen? Okay. And then I just keep seeing water and watery notions. Oh, and I have something to share with you guys. I don't think it's completely done, but I'm going to share it with you guys anyways. Okay, so here's the incantation. New moon magic in general, magic for the sea stars and those who practice and play with the moon. It's ever going. It can be spontaneous. It doesn't have to be anything that's in a book or specifically handed down, and it can be. Mother just shares with me to always put a little bit of your own intuitive magic or intuition or intention into it. Always bring a little bit of that. Very important. Okay, here's the incantation. My work has brought me to the things I most desire. I am elemental. I am fire. All that I touch, I change. My art and the universe sing. I am the dream of wings. I'll repeat that. This is pretty rad. My work has brought me the things I most desire. I am elemental. I am fire. All that I touch, I change. My art and the universe sing. I am that dream of wings. Okay? And then she does go into the 13th moon. I need to read. I got all this stuff to do. Fun stuff to do. Okay, there was something. I feel like there was something. Oh, okay. Let me pause this. I'll show you. Okay. So, I made this. It's 3D. Okay. Or 2D, I should say. I made it with plaster and such. And the goal is to put it up here behind me somewhere so that it's always in the video. So that subliminally it's getting out there. So hopefully you can see. I feel like I want to do a little more work on it. But if you can see, this is Great Mother's head and her hair. And then her crown. Of course, the moon. But the moon is also her tail. See how she's like a giant mermaid? The earth is her belly. As you can see, I try to make like the Americas. And part of her breast, right, is the other part of the continent. Here are her arms, kind of like holding the planet. Her arms look a little weird, but that's okay. See? Hopefully you can see it. So she's like holding the planet. And then her body is our watery surroundings. Maybe the stars. Maybe the firmament. I don't know about all that. But I'm not anti that. And then the same. And I like how the eyes ended up where the points of the moon / her tail are. I just thought that was cool. So, I want to share that with you guys. This is some of the wildness I didn't see. It's like purple and black. I love the purple. I haven't really seen it in this light. I think that purple is rad. I might redo. I don't know. Anyone have any opinions? I might redo her mouth a little bit, but I like it. I like when I create stuff. And this came because of being reminded of Mommy and I Are One. And I feel like I saw it somewhere, and I was like, oh. So yeah, I think it might be a good spot, maybe right there. Above the other art that I did. I don't know, or maybe over here. Anyways. Okay. That's my video for today. Wild, all over the place. Exciting moon stuff. I know it's a long video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any theories and ideas, and I want to put this, I don't know what I want to do with this, but I am excited about it. I think it's a big deal. I really do. Okay. Little bit of music and sound bowls before we go. YouTube family. I'm still really excited about it. I think it's super exciting. I need to figure out a way to actually create a calendar that matches it. Maybe ChatGPT can help me out with that. Anyways, that's okay. next time. Take care.